Welcome, deeply curious listeners, to The Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we're really embarking on something quite profound, an exploration into, well, one of the most persistent human quests, right?
Definitely.
The search for meaning, for understanding why things are the way they are, and, how we find our way through this complex dance, the one between our inner world and, well, everything out there.
That outer reality, yeah.
We're all trying, aren't we, in our own ways, to figure out how to live more consciously, maybe more effectively, and ultimately, I suppose, more wisely.
It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah,
And it feels like it's always been there.
exactly. It's timeless. So this deep dive today, it isn't just about listing different ideas. Our mission really is to connect the dots. Some surprising dots, maybe?
Finding those unexpected links.
Yeah, drawing insights from this really rich stack of sources we've got. We want to trace those universal threads, the ones weaving through ancient spiritual wisdom, modern psychology, even some really practical guides.
Showing that it's not just some fleeting trend.
Right. It's fundamental, a human endeavor that's been going on forever, across cultures, across centuries.
Absolutely. And the sheer breadth of the sources we're diving into today is, well, it's quite something. We're pulling from classical spiritual texts, things like the Bhagavad Gita, the Dhammapada, these ancient roadmaps to enlightenment, to inner peace.
Foundational stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
But then we bridge that right up to modern psychological explorations. You've got Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul, offering these contemporary lenses on ego, consciousness, the whole human condition.
Bringing it into our world now.
Exactly. And we don't stop there. We delve into some pretty profound philosophical treatises, historical accounts, even practical guides to self-mastery. Think the Complete Musashi, Tara Brach's Radical Acceptance.
Wow, that's a mix, Musashi and mindfulness.
It is. But the goal is clear. We want to extract those crucial insights about personal transformation, sure, but also about the very nature of reality and, importantly, our responsibilities within this larger interconnected cosmos.
Yeah.
The idea is to show how all these varied lenses, when you bring them together, they illuminate these common truths, sometimes startlingly similar truths about what it means to be human and awake.
So, as we sift through all this, these really profound perspectives, the central question for us, and I guess for you listening, is this. What core lessons, what actionable lessons can we actually draw from all this variety?
Right, to actually use.
Yeah, to live more consciously, more effectively, maybe more meaningfully, right here, right now. What are those underlying principles that just transcend time and culture? Let's plunge in.
The inner landscape understanding self and ego.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because it seems like almost all our sources, they immediately point to this this internal struggle. It feels really central, doesn't it?
It really does, like a constant battle inside.
Yeah, like we're constantly battling something within ourselves. So what's really at the heart of this relentless internal conflict, according to these different texts?
It's remarkable, actually, how many different traditions seem to land on this same idea, this kind of internal split, a fundamental division within our own experience of who we are.
A split, okay.
Yeah. A Course in Miracles, for example, it puts it very starkly. It suggests we have these two completely conflicting ways of evaluating ourselves.
Two ways.
Two ways. On one side, there's what it calls the Holy Spirit's perception, which is basically an unwavering, compassionate view of your true self, seeing you as inherently whole, perfect, loving, regardless of mistakes or flaws.
That sounds nice. Ideal, maybe.
Well, it's presented as the truth of your being. It remembers your spiritual essence, separate from what you do. But then there's the ego's perception. And the ego, the Course says, is easily deceived by everything you do, especially when you act lovingly.
Wait, deceived when you act lovingly? That seems backwards.
It does, right? But here's the twist. The ego has already judged you as unloving or not good enough or somehow deficient. So when you act from a place of genuine love, the ego sees it as a direct threat to its whole judgment system.
Oh, okay. It undermines the ego's story about you.
Precisely. And that triggers this powerful internal attack. Right when your motives are actually aligned with love, not the ego's self-serving stuff. It's this really vicious cycle where doing good can actually make you feel worse internally, sparking self-condemnation.
Wow. That's a powerful and almost unsettling idea, that our own loving actions could trigger an attack from within. Can you maybe elaborate a bit on why does the ego react like that? What's it protecting? And how does that actually feel day to day?
Well, the ego's main job, you could say, is self-preservation. But the self it's trying to preserve is a false self, one built on ideas of separation, fear, lack. Yeah,
Scarcity. So it's fundamentally
yeah,
insecure.
deeply. So when true unconditional love starts bubbling up from within, which is inherently unifying, expansive, the ego sees it as a direct threat to its existence. It's like, imagine a fortress built on sand. Any wave of real connection or inherent worthiness, it just threatens to wash the whole thing away.
Okay, I get that image.
And in daily life, this shows up as self-sabotage.
Yeah.
That feeling of unworthiness when things are actually going well,
Yeah.
or that persistent inner voice nagging you, telling you you're not good enough, even right after you've done something genuinely kind or successful.
That little voice,
It's
yeah.
that subtle nagging discomfort, that anxiety that pops up maybe when you experience pure joy, because the ego finds that state unfamiliar and therefore threatening.
And Eckhart Tolle in A New Earth, he really digs into this ego trap, doesn't he? Especially in our modern world, our affluent world.
He does. He makes a strong point there.
He points out that the affluent world is even more deeply identified with form, more lost in content, more trapped in ego. It's like people mistakenly think their happiness is completely dependent on what happens.
On the externals, yeah. Possession, status.
Exactly, possessions, status, relationships even. They don't realize that that external stuff is inherently unstable. It's always changing.
Which sets you up for disappointment.
Constantly. It leads to this perpetual state of dissatisfaction. The present moment is always seen as like marred by something that has happened and shouldn't have, or deficient because of something that has not happened but should have.
Always lacking something.
Always. And in doing that, we completely miss the deeper perfection that is inherent in life itself. That perfection that's always there, he says, beyond what is happening or not happening, beyond form. It's this inability to just accept the isness of the present, which the ego hates, right? Because this whole game depends on striving for some future ideal.
Absolutely. And linking this up, Marianne Williamson in The Return to Love, she talks directly about the consequences of this ego identification. She calls it a fractured sense of self.
Fractured, that sounds painful.
It is, and the core problem, as she frames it, isn't really about external stuff being wrong, but this deeper internal forgetting. You have forgotten who you are, she says.
It's like spiritual amnesia.
Kind of, yeah. And this forgetting, it doesn't just feel like a vague unease. It shows up in very concrete patterns of self-betrayal. Think about it, she says, like screwing up at the job, even when you know you're capable.
Oh, I think we can all relate to some version of that.
Or that frustrating cycle of losing 10 pounds and then putting them back on. Maybe, she suggests, terrified, deep down unconsciously, by how it feels to actually look beautiful or be successful or feel truly worthy.
Wow. So these seemingly random failures are actually rooted in this deeper identity issue.
That's the idea. They all stem from that fundamental forgotten identity, this internal belief that we're somehow less than we really are. It connects back to A Course in Miracles, too, that core exercise in its workbook, I am as God created me. It's designed specifically to heal this fracture, to remind us of our true inherent worth beyond the ego's narrow and often punishing view of ourselves.
Okay, so this deep internal conflict, this fractured self, it's constantly playing out. How does this inner judge, this relentless critic, actually work in our daily minds? How does it influence our thoughts, our feelings, our actions? It sounds like this constant, maybe often unconscious battle that's dictating a lot of our experience.
That's a really important question, the how. What are the internal gears grinding away? Don Miguel Ruiz in The Four Agreements, he gives us this really powerful concept, the inner judge and the book of law, that just relentlessly rules our minds.
The book of law, like an internal rule book.
Exactly. And it's not just a metaphor. He argues it's this ingrained, often unconscious system of beliefs and rules we absorb starting in childhood through what he calls domestication. This internal legal system, it judges everything. Everything we do and don't do. Everything we think and don't think. Even everything we feel and don't feel.
Oh, well, that's comprehensive judgment.
It is. It's like having this harsh, unyielding tyrant living inside your own head. It can make us feel perpetually guilty or punished or ashamed, even for thoughts and actions that are perfectly natural, maybe even positive. This internal court is just constantly in session, deciding our self-worth based on these often arbitrary rules we've internalized.
And it's not just judging ourselves, right? Ruiz also talks about how this leads us to make assumptions about everyone else.
Yes, exactly. It's not just internal. This deeply ingrained framework makes us constantly make assumptions about others, about the world. He says something really profound. All the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally.
That's a big claim. All the sadness and drama.
It is a big claim, but think about it. When we make assumptions, We're essentially writing fiction in our heads, building whole stories, often with zero basis in reality, and then we react to those stories as if they're absolute truth.
Okay, I see that. We project our own stuff.
We project our own fears, our own book of law onto other people. And that's precisely why he says it's better to ask questions than to make an assumption, because assumptions set us up for suffering. We literally create our own pain by filling in the blanks with our ego's guesswork, instead of just seeking clarity, asking. Such a crucial lesson for navigating relationships, any social interaction, really, precisely. And adding another layer here, Michael Singer in The Untethered Soul. He talks about that constant, incessant internal chatter that plagues most of us.
The mental noise.
Yeah, and he points out it's not just background noise. It's often the source of our internal discomfort, our disease. He says our thoughts often have far less impact on this world than you would like to think.
Ouch. That deflates the ego a bit.
It does. Their main function, he argues, isn't really to change external reality or solve actual problems. It's mostly to make us feel better or worse about what is going on now, what is going on in the past, or what might go on in the future.
So it's mostly self-soothing or self-agitating.
Pretty much. This internal monologue, this commotion the mind creates, he says, is often the real cause of our problems and suffering. Not life itself, but the reaction, the mental spin. It's like this endless loop of self-referential thought that just drains our energy without actually providing real solutions or peace. It keeps us trapped in the subjective, ego-driven bubble.
That's a powerful picture. And frankly, kind of exhausting, isn't it? Just thinking about that endless loop draining our energy. If our internal monologue is often the real problem, not life itself, then wow, the task ahead seems huge. How do we even begin to untangle ourselves from this deep-seated ego, this inner judge? How do we find some genuine inner freedom? So what does this all mean? Where do we start?
It is a profound shift, absolutely. But the good news is our sources offer some really clear and surprisingly consistent pathways forward. Eckhart Tolle, again in A New Earth, he introduces stillness.
Yeah.
Stillness as a fundamental transformative practice.
Stillness. Okay.
And he puts it beautifully, almost poetically. Stillness is the language God speaks, and everything else is a bad translation.
That's a lovely line.
Isn't it? And this isn't about forcing your mind blank or anything like that. It's about becoming consciously aware of stillness. Maybe in the quiet moments in nature or in the pauses between sounds, or even just noticing the silence that actually underlies all the mental noise.
So noticing the gaps.
Noticing the gaps, exactly. Becoming conscious of stillness, Tolle says, connects us directly with the formless and timeless dimension within ourselves. That which is beyond thought, beyond ego. He emphasizes that being aware of stillness is being still. And in that state, you are more essentially, more deeply yourself. It's about consciously stepping out of the mental traffic jam and connecting to something deeper, more expansive within us.
In Tara Brach, in Radical Acceptance, she offers a really practical way to cultivate this connection, right? Moving it from just an idea to something we actually do.
Precisely. She bridges that gap. She explains that awakening from the trance of ego, of unworthiness, involves not only inner resolve, but also an active training of the heart and mind.
Active training, so it takes effort.
It takes deliberate engagement, yes. It's not passive. It means learning to recognize what is true in the present moment, and crucially, embracing whatever we see with an open heart.
Embracing whatever we see, even the difficult stuff.
Especially the difficult stuff. It involves this dual approach. Mindfulness, seeing clearly, without judgment, what's actually happening inside you. And compassion, accepting what you see without resistance, without beating yourself up. This active training, she argues, is what frees us from the suffering caused by our habitual reactions to our thoughts and feelings. It fosters this inner peace that isn't dependent on everything outside being perfect. And you see this same wisdom echoed thousands of years earlier in the ancient Dhammapada. It really emphasizes purifying our actions across all levels.
How so?
It advises us to be watchful of speech, well restrained in mind. That means not just what we say out loud, but also how we think, cultivating this mindful awareness of our internal dialogue. And, importantly, one would not do what is unwholesome by body, too.
Yeah, so thoughts, words, and deeds.
Exactly. These three modes of action one would purify. It's this integrated approach to inner freedom, aligning our words, thoughts, and physical actions with wholesome, compassionate intentions.
I like that integrated view.
And it uses this wonderful analogy. You gradually blow out the stain that is one's own, like a smith the stain of silver.
Like polishing metal.
Precisely. It's not this sudden zap, you're enlightened kind of thing. It's a patient, gradual, incremental process. Refinement, purification. like a craftsman meticulously working to reveal the true shine underneath all the tarnish.
So it's about consistent, dedicated practice across our whole being, mind, speech, action. And tying it back to Tolle again, this whole process seems to involve de-emphasizing your form identity,
Right.
letting go of being so tightly identified with the external stuff.
Exactly. When we start to loosen our grip on being defined by our external self, our job, our possessions, our social roles, our successes, our failures, even how we look when we de-emphasize that form identity, Tolle suggests we can access this enormous power that flows through you into the world.
So letting go of the surface self unlocks deeper power.
That's the idea. It's not about becoming less or neglecting responsibilities. It's about becoming more of your true essential self, unburdened by the ego's constant need for validation and external props. It's about recognizing that deeper perfection Tolle talks about, the one that's always present beneath the surface changes of life, and letting that authentic power guide how we show up in the world.
The path to wisdom, spiritual practice, and transformation.
Okay, so we've mapped out this inner landscape. We've seen the ego, the inner judge, the chatter. We know we need stillness, acceptance, purification. But recognizing the problem, even understanding the goal, that's really just the starting line, isn't it?
Absolutely. The real journey begins with practice, with
Yeah.
action.
Right. So how do these profound traditions guide us beyond just awareness? How do we actually get from here to there?
Oh.
What are the concrete maps they offer for walking this path to deeper wisdom?
You're right. The how is absolutely critical. It's definitely about more than just having an insight. It's about sustained, often disciplined practice. The Yoga Sutras, for instance, they introduce something called Kriya Yoga.
Kriya Yoga.
And they define it as this dynamic practice specifically designed for profound inner transformation. It's not just about, physical postures, though that can be part of some traditions. Kriya Yoga here is described as a threefold path.
3 parts.
Yeah. First, austerity, which involves self-discipline, purification, maybe simplifying one's life. Second, study of the psyche, which is essentially self-reflection, deep introspection, understanding your own mind. And third, profound religious meditation on the Supreme Lord, which points to a deep spiritual devotion, a focus beyond the personal self.
Austerity, steady devotion.
Okay. And the explicit purpose, the sutras say, is to produce a continuous, effortless linkage of the attention to a higher concentration force.
Effortless linkage. That sounds, well, both effortless and demanding.
It's a process. Think of it less like forcing your mind into submission and more like gradually training it, like gently guiding it so it naturally aligns with the more profound reality. That quiet space beyond the constant mental noise. Almost like there's a magnetic pull drawing your attention inward towards that stillness.
That idea of effortless linkage is really interesting. It sounds like it happens in stages. Like you move from deliberate effort towards something more absorbed.
That's exactly how it's often described.
The sources talk about an initial observational linkage of the attention to a higher concentration force that happens with analysis, reflection, and introspective happiness, or with focus on self-consciousness.
Right, so there's a conscious engagement at first.
Yeah, it implies this very deliberate, conscious work, almost like a scientific approach to watching yourself, observing your mind. But then the ultimate goal, samadhi, is described as where the yogi loses himself more and more because he does not have to exert his will or deliberation.
It becomes natural, effortless.
Exactly. A state of deep absorption, deep relaxation, where this mystic power just flows without tension. It's like a journey from intentional effort and focused concentration to this state of profound natural alignment, where the true self just emerges without all the struggle.
And what's truly fascinating is how this core idea, this pursuit of self-mastery, this quest for effortless alignment, it echoes in places you might not expect.
Like where?
Well, consider Musashi, the legendary swordsman, right? In the complete Musashi. His teachings are applied to, life or death combat.
Definitely not yoga.
Definitely not. But listen to this. He states that the principles behind the mastery of swordsmanship and winning in combat are one and the same. It's not about brute force for him. It's about this profound psychological stillness and an almost predictive awareness.
Stillness in combat.
Yes. His methods emphasize deep observation, he calls it, knowing the conditions, understanding the rhythm, the weaknesses, the strengths of your opponent, the environment. But even more profoundly, he talks about becoming your enemy.
Becoming your enemy. How does that work?
Not literally joining them, obviously, but intuitively anticipating their moves, their difficulties, almost calculating their confusion by internalizing their likely state of mind.
Wow. That's deep empathy almost, applied strategically.
It is, and it mirrors that effortless linkage we saw in Kriya Yoga. Both traditions, one spiritual, one martial, they teach that peak performance and inner peace, arguably they arise from a mind that's uncluttered by internal static, a mind intimately connected to the flow of the present moment.
So the real insight is that mastery of the self, whether it's in meditation or battle, is about mastering your internal state.
Precisely. That's the common ground.
Okay, here's something I find really interesting, maybe even a bit tricky. This tension between effort and, well, something else. Are we talking about a constant, grueling uphill climb towards wisdom? Or is there also a place for something more effortless? Something like grace or just letting things unfold naturally?
That's a fantastic question. Effort versus surrender.
Yeah. Is it all relentless effort, or do we sometimes need to just let go? Because it
Yes.
feels like sometimes you have to push, and other times pushing is the worst thing you can do.
This duality, effort and surrender, it's absolutely a profound and recurring theme. You see it everywhere. Deepak Chopra, for instance, in the Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, he really leans into the effortless side.
How so?
He talks about pure potentiality being our essential state. At our core, he says, we are pure consciousness, the field of all possibilities and infinite creativity.
The field of all possibilities.
Right. And he argues that when we truly discover this true nature, in that very knowing lies the ability to fulfill any dream you have. Meditation, in his view, is key to tapping into this innate power.
So meditation isn't just for calm, it's for accessing potential.
Exactly. It's not just about quieting the mind, but about stepping beyond the chatter to transcend karma and experience the gap, the self, the spirit. It's about accessing this inherent wellspring of power that doesn't require struggle. It requires realization, alignment with what we already are. It suggests potential isn't something we acquire, it's something we uncover.
The path isn't always smooth sailing, is it?
Yeah.
While Chopra points to this pure potentiality, other traditions really highlight a much more arduous process, a cleansing almost.
That's very true. It's not always gentle breezes.
Right, like St. John of the Cross and the Dark Night of the Soul. He describes this really rigorous, often painful spiritual journey, where God will enlighten the soul, giving it knowledge not only of its lowliness and wretchedness, but likewise of the greatness and excellence of God.
So seeing both the darkness and the light within.
Exactly. And this dark night isn't literal darkness, but this period of profound spiritual dryness, desolation. It's presented as a necessary stripping away of attachments, illusions. It involves a cleansing that ultimately frees the understanding that it may understand the truth. It purifies the senses, the spirit, so they can receive divine light directly. It sounds like a painful but essential process of letting go of everything we thought we were.
A forced surrender, almost.
Yeah, to arrive at deeper insight in union with the divine.
And building on that, but maybe offering a bridge between that intensity and Chopra's effortlessness, you have St. Teresa of Avila. In her interior castle, she talks about the prayer of recollection.
Prayer of recollection.
Okay. In this state, she says, the senses and all external things seem gradually to lose their hold on him, while the soul, on the other hand, regains its lost control. But here's the crucial part. This isn't achieved by gritting your teeth and forcing it.
No. How then?
Instead, she says, the soul must just leave itself in the hands of God. It's this active, but not strenuous kind of surrender, where your intention to connect, your willingness, opens the door for grace, for divine influence, to gently guide the soul into this state of absorption. It leads to deeper instruction, she says, and spiritual progress than any amount of pure self-effort could achieve alone.
So it's like setting the sails, but letting the wind do the work.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's this paradox of active non-action. Your intention opens the door, grace walks through.
And it's just fascinating to see a modern scientific parallel popping up here. This idea of unsticking the mind, creating space for new patterns. It seems to align with both the dark night idea and this gentler recollection.
Where do you see that?
Well, Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind. He discusses research on psychedelics, how they can temporarily elevate entropy in the inflexible brain, basically shaking things up, jolting the system out of its default patterns.
Creating chaos to break rigidity.
Exactly. Creating this interval of maximum plasticity, a window where new patterns can be learned and potentially take hold. Now, obviously, the means are pharmacological, the context is scientific, but that underlying principle, disrupting rigid mental structures, those egoic patterns, to allow for profound psychological, maybe even spiritual transformation. It really resonates with these ancient spiritual ideas, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It suggests there might be multiple doorways, multiple methods for opening the mind to new realities, for breaking free from old ruts,
Different keys for the same lock, perhaps.
perhaps. And the parallel with Pema Chodron's work in When Things Fall Apart is striking too. She fully acknowledges that the process of becoming unstuck requires tremendous bravery. Why? Because, as she puts it, basically we're completely changing our way of perceiving reality, like changing our DNA.
That sounds radical. Changing our DNA, metaphorically speaking.
It is, and she says it's not a comfortable process. It involves letting go of a zillion possibilities of attaining resolution, all our mental projections about how things should be, how problems should be solved neatly.
Giving up the need for a perfect ending.
Exactly. Instead, it demands accepting that life isn't always going to be strife-free. It demands embracing a willingness to be vulnerable, to be non-judgmental towards whatever comes up inside us, even when it's embarrassing or painful. It's about facing reality as it is, not as we wish it were, and finding strength in that raw, honest acceptance.
Okay, so we have effort, we have surrender, we have these moments of potential disruption and reintegration. But how does this idea of a divine presence fit in, or a higher power? How does that intersect with our own personal effort and responsibility on this path? Are we doing it all ourselves, or is there a bigger force at play supporting us, guiding us? It feels like a delicate balance.
It really does. And C.S. Lewis, in Mere Christianity, he offers such a beautifully balanced perspective on this very interplay. He starts by reminding us of our human limits, our inherent frailty.
How so?
He states that our own unaided efforts can be relied on to carry us even through the next 24 hours as decent people, only so far. He's quite blunt. If he does not support us, not one of us is safe from some gross sin.
Wow. That emphasizes dependence quite strongly.
It does. It highlights our need for divine support, for deep, sustained moral and spiritual integrity. But he immediately balances this. He affirms that no possible degree of holiness or heroism is beyond what he is determined to produce in every one of us in the end.
So there's a powerful divine intention for us, too.
Exactly. A divine intention and capacity to transform us, working in partnership with our efforts. It's not all us, nor is it just passively waiting. It's a co-creation, a dance between our striving and divine grace.
And Conversations with God takes us even further, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With a really profound statement. You are all God's in formation.
Yes, that's a central idea there.
This perspective suggests that just by taking physical form, just by being here, we have already done enough. It describes divine energy, that which is God, as slowing itself down, to become matter, forming individual souls as distinct parts of the whole.
So our very existence is a divine act.
That's the implication. Our embodiment isn't just a test we have to pass on our own strength. It's presented as an inherent contribution to the common good, allowing that which is common, the one common element, to experience that which is good. It completely reframes life, doesn't it? Not as a struggle to earn divinity, but as an inherent, ongoing expression of divinity, unfolding and experiencing itself through each of us.
That's a radically different viewpoint. And what's truly fascinating is how the ancient Tao Te Ching echoes this idea, this alignment with a greater inherent force the way, without needing to nail it down intellectually.
Love to put it.
It teaches that the way of the universe could not be adequately described in words. It's just beyond our intellectual grasp, yet its nature could be understood. And crucially, those who cared the most about it, and the life from which it was inseparable, understood it best.
So understanding comes through caring, through connection, not just thinking.
Exactly. And this isn't about escaping the dust of the world or trying to ascend to some separate ethereal plane. It's actually about joining the dust of the world, embracing life as it is, flowing with the natural order of things, and finding profound wisdom right there in that inherent connection. It's about finding the sacred in the ordinary, in the continuous unfolding of existence, rather than trying to control it or define it definitively.
Our place in the grand tapestry, cosmos, nature, and community.
That's a really powerful shift, isn't it? Moving from all that internal effort and struggle towards recognizing this inherent divinity, this flow. Let's broaden our view even further now. Let's pan out from the intense inner journey of self-discovery and spiritual practice to our place in the vastness of the cosmos and our connection to nature. How do these individual transformations resonate within that bigger picture? And how does that change how we see the world?
It's a crucial expansion of perspective. And Teilhard de Chardin, in The Phenomenon of Man, offers this, breathtaking view that really tries to synthesize science and spirit.
What's his core idea?
He suggests that the fundamental stuff of the universe cannot divide itself. It actually forms in its totality, the only real indivisible. He sees human consciousness not as some weird fluke or something separate, but as evolution looking at itself and reflecting upon itself.
Wow. So we are the universe becoming self-aware.
Quite literally, yes. We are the cosmos observing itself. And this reveals what he calls a triple unity. A unity of structure, mechanism, and movement that persists and develops through all of creation, from the tiniest atom to the biggest galaxy. Our individual consciousness isn't isolated. It's deeply embedded within this interconnected, evolving whole, a vital part of the universe's own journey of self-discovery.
And he paints a really vivid picture of life emerging within this grand unity, doesn't he?
He does. He describes how life, as it just emerges from matter, should be dripping with molecularity, starting microscopic and innumerable. It wasn't some single grand sudden lightning strike. It was this natural, inevitable, continuous unfolding from the fundamental stuff of the universe itself.
Almost like the universe was pregnant with life from the beginning.
That's a good way to think about it. And he then poses the task for us, for humanity, to understand how the organic world works and what is its future. This isn't just presented as a scientific goal, but a spiritual one, too. It urges us to grasp our profound connection to this immense biological and cosmic process, to actively participate in the ongoing evolution of consciousness. It's really a call to deeply observe, understand, and align ourselves with the unfolding of life itself. And if you connect this cosmic view to deeper cultural roots, Joseph Campbell, in The Power of Myth, he explores how many earlier agricultural societies perceived and honored this connection, specifically through the goddess figure, the great goddess, the Mother Earth.
The divine feminine in nature.
Exactly. In those cultures, woman was often seen as a vehicle of life, intrinsically identified with the Earth goddess herself, giving birth, providing nourishment to both human life and the life of the fields, this deeply linked woman magic and earth magic. It recognized this profound, nurturing, life-giving power embodied both in the feminine principle and in nature. It's a reverence for the source of all life, human and environmental. It highlights a worldview where humanity isn't separate from nature, but an intimate, utterly dependent part of it.
You know, for a really grounded, intimate example of this kind of deep connection, you really can't beat Henry David Thoreau in Walden.
Ah, yes, the pond.
The pond. He meticulously describes the shifting colors of the water, sometimes deep emerald, sometimes brilliant sapphire, and the subtle changes in its levels, sometimes a foot or two lower, sometimes 5 feet higher, depending on the season. The weather.
Just paying incredibly close attention.
Exactly. He notes how a single glass of its water held up to the light is as colorless as an equal quantity of air, yet the whole pond possesses these distinct hues, qualities, reflecting the sky, the forest, this intimate, patient observation of the natural world, even something seemingly simple like a pond. It just reveals these profound truths about the subtle, dynamic changes inherent in existence.
It's a microcosm reflecting the macrocosm.
Totally. It teaches us that deep wisdom often lies right there, in sustained, appreciative attention to the living world around us. Even the smallest things can hold immense depth if we just look closely enough. These grand ideas about the universe, about nature, they're beautiful, inspiring even, but then we look at our human world, our societies, our interactions with each other, and often what we see is so much conflict, so much struggle. How do these larger cosmic truths translate, or maybe fail to translate, into how we actually live together?
That's the rub, isn't it? Bridging that gap between the ideal of interconnectedness and the often harsh reality of human organization. And Steven Pinker's work, The Better Angels of Our Nature, provides a pretty stark statistical point here. It speaks volumes about the fragility of our social systems.
What does he point out?
He notes that anocracies, these are governments that are kind of stuck in the middle, neither fully democratic nor fully autocratic, often unstable hybrids. These anocracies are about 6 times more likely than democracies to experience new outbreaks of societal wars.
6 times more likely. Wow.
Yeah. It's not just some dry academic statistic. It tells us how a lack of stable, fair governance or a system just riddled with internal contradictions creates an environment that's ripe for conflict, for internal strife. It shows how external societal structures profoundly impact our capacity for peace and cooperation, affecting human interactions on a massive scale.
And this fragility, it feels even more poignant when you contrast it with different worldviews, like the one presented in Black Elk Speaks through Neihart's telling.
A very different perspective.
Absolutely. Black Elk expresses this profound, bitterness toward the whites for taking the Lakota's lands and destroying their way of life. And a core critique aimed at the Wasichus, or white people, is their perceived lack of real community, and this pervasive greed that just felt completely alien to indigenous ways.
A clash of value.
Deeply, he observes that the Wasichus did not care for each other the way our people did before the nation's hoop was broken. And think about the extermination of the buffalo. He saw it driven by Wasichus who were crazy to get money. It's presented not just as ecological devastation, but as a symptom of a society that valued individual profit and exploitation above everything else, above collective well-being, sacred reciprocity, reverence for nature. This cultural clash just throws into sharp relief how differently societies can frame our responsibilities to each other and to the earth.
And expanding on that critique of societal values, Conversations with God offers this fascinating thought experiment. It describes highly evolved cultures where personal possessives do not exist in their language.
No personal possessives, like no my or mine.
Exactly. Imagine a world where instead of saying my car, you'd say the car I am now with. Or instead of my children, it's the children I am now with.
That's a radical shift in thinking.
It is. It's not just linguistic. It's a fundamental change in worldview. It directly challenges our whole concept of ownership, of resource distribution. And this perspective suggests, quite pointedly, that maybe our societies are the primitive ones. Those societies that see scarcity of that which is commonly needed as an opportunity for greater profits.
Oof, that hits close to home.
It's meant to, because that system driven by possessiveness and individual gain arguably creates the very conflicts and inequalities we see all around us. It directly contradicts that interconnectedness we were just talking about.
And James Baldwin, in The Fire Next Time, he brings such a powerful, deeply personal perspective to this, on the struggle of being Black in America, highlighting how these societal structures impose this devastating self-perception.
His writing is incredibly potent.
It really is. He argues, you can only be destroyed by believing that you really are what the white world calls a nigger. He just dissects this profound illusion he sees in white Americans, supposing that Negroes could ever have imagined that white people would give them anything.
Challenging a narrative of benevolence.
Completely. True giving, Baldwin asserts, requires risking oneself. This profound act of vulnerability, recognition, self-sacrifice, something he felt the American Republic hadn't been sufficiently mature to do. He even questions the motives behind the 1954 Supreme Court decision ending segregation, suggesting it might have been driven more by Cold War politics, needing to woo newly independent African nations rather than genuine love or justice.
A stark reminder of power dynamics.
Absolutely. How societal power, national self-interest, they so often overshadow real human connection and justice, creating these deep divides rooted in ego, in fear.
And this whole complex interplay self-society conflict,
Yeah.
it really brings us back around to C.S. Lewis's insights in Mere Christianity, particularly on the destructive nature of pride.
Pride is the root.
He argues it's a major one. He explains that pride is essentially competitive, is competitive by its very nature. It's not just about having something. It gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man.
Keeping up with the Joneses on a spiritual level.
Pretty much. And Lewis argues this isn't just some minor personal failing. He sees it as a driving force behind many evils in the world that people often just blame on greed or selfishness. This competitive pride, it manifests in our individual interactions, sure, but also in our societal structures, our international conflicts. It perpetuates these cycles of acquisition, domination, separation, instead of cooperation, empathy, shared well-being. It's really the antithesis of that interconnectedness that so many other sources point to as our true nature.
Okay, so we've seen the inner turmoil, the societal conflicts, these disconnects from nature, from each other. It can feel a bit bleak. In light of all these profound challenges, what is the unifying force? What can actually lead us toward a better future, personally and collectively? What holds this whole grand tapestry together, and how do we, activate it?
Well, coming back to Conversations with God, the answer offered there is incredibly clear, elegant, and really all-encompassing. It's love.
Love.
But defined very broadly. Love is that which is unlimited. There is no beginning and no end to it. No before and no after. Love always was, always is, and always will be.
So love as the fundamental reality, not just an emotion.
Exactly. It elevates love beyond just feeling, positioning it as the very essence of our being, maybe the fabric of the cosmos itself. It describes love as perfectly free, unconstrained by conditions or expectations. And through the expression of this boundless love, it says you are seeking to know and to experience who and what you are. It becomes this journey of self-discovery where every act of love is an act of recognizing and revealing your own true divine nature.
And this divine boundless love, how does it become practical? How does it manifest in our messy human relationships? It needs to move from insight to action, right?
Absolutely. And the dialogue of St. Catherine of Siena, which is highlighted as one of the top 7 Catholic classics, illustrates this beautifully. She argues that when someone truly grasps that they are ineffably loved by me, meaning by God, they naturally, inevitably extend that same boundless love to every other rational creature.
So receiving divine love enables us to give it.
That's the core idea. And crucially, this isn't transactional. It's not, I love you so you'll love me back. It's about loving your neighbor unconditionally, without being loved by him, and without consideration of your own advantage, whether spiritual or temporal.
That's demanding, selfless.
It is. She emphasizes that this divine love cannot be returned directly to me, God, but you can pay it to my rational creature. Meaning, our love for God is best, maybe only truly, expressed through selfless love for humanity, for our neighbors. It's a profound call to move beyond self-interest entirely towards this radical universal compassion. And just to clarify this further, C.S. Lewis, again, in Mere Christianity, he helps us understand this really crucial distinction, the difference between being in love and simply love.
Okay, what's the difference for him?
Being in love, he says, is often this glorious state, right? And a powerful feeling, the explosion that started many relationships, full of intense emotion, passion. But, Lewis argues, no feeling can be relied on to last in its full intensity. Feelings ebb and flow.
No, true enough.
So true love, in the second, deeper sense, is not merely a feeling. It is a deep unity, maintained by the will and deliberately strengthened by habit.
Maintained by the will, so it's a choice.
It's a choice, reinforced by practice, by habit, and, he adds, reinforced by the grace which both partners ask and receive from God. This is the steadfast willed love, the kind that sustains and builds even through moments when you don't feel loving, through dislike even. It reinforces commitment and allows a deeper, more enduring connection to flourish. It's this profound intentional love as commitment to the well-being and unity of others that serves as the ultimate unifying force, both within ourselves and in our communities. It's a choice we make again and again, not just a feeling that happens to us.
Wow. We have really covered some ground today, haven't we? We started deep inside, in those internal landscapes of ego and spirit, exploring the core conflicts, recognizing that inner judge, the endless chatter keeping us from our true selves.
Unpacking the internal dynamics first.
Yeah. Then we ventured into these disciplined paths to wisdom, recognizing how all these different traditions, Kriya Yoga, Musashi's Insights, the Dark Night, even modern science, looking at consciousness, they all offer concrete tools for real transformation, for waking up.
Different maps, but pointing towards similar destinations.
Exactly. And finally, we zoomed out, considered our place in this vast, interconnected universe, looking at our relationship with nature and tackling the complex, often really challenging dynamics of human community. From ancient texts to modern psychology, from martial arts to searing social commentary. The message seems to echo, doesn't it? Understanding ourselves is deeply linked to understanding the world around us.
And our actions within that world matter profoundly.
They really do.
Indeed. And that journey to deeper realities, it often involves confronting, as Marianne Williamson put it, that fractured sense of self. There's this profound need to overcome the negativity and ego that Toll identifies so clearly.
It's a constant theme.
It is. It's a call to cultivate stillness and acceptance, as Toll and Tara Brach both emphasize. Learning to recognize what's true in the moment with an open heart. Ultimately, it seems to be a path of active purification of actions, speech, mind, like we saw in the Dhammapada. And it requires that courageous process of unsticking from old limiting patterns, as Pema Chodron described it.
Takes bravery.
It really does. This whole exploration, I think, highlights that while the tools, the language, they might differ across time and tradition, that fundamental human quest for wisdom, for connection, for peace, it remains constant, and it seems anchored again and again by the unifying power of conscious, intentional, willed love.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave you with this really powerful statement from Conversations with God to chew on. You could then never demand of another being that it give you something in return for your sharing the resources and necessities of physical life.
Imagine that. No expectation of return for basic needs.
Just imagine. What would our world truly look like if we collectively somehow shed that concept of yours and mine, especially when it comes to universal needs? What if we truly embraced the common good, not just as some nice idea, but as a deeply lived reality, driven by that profound, intentional love Lewis talked about?
What would it mean to really see everything and everyone, not as a resource to own or exploit?
But as a gift, as in the words of the text, the life I am in the presence of. That's a thought to sit with. A vision, maybe, of an awakened reality that these incredibly diverse sources are all, in their own ways, inviting us to explore and perhaps inviting us to help build.